Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another edition of the Pocket Change Market Report. This is for November 27th, 2021. Of course, this is brought to you by BlueRidgeSilhound. I'm your host, Sean, in this video, and we are going to talk about some of the most relevant errors and varieties to have sold here in the last few days. We delivered a PCMR, kind of strange timing this week with Thanksgiving and everything. Of course that video dropped Thanksgiving morning, and then now here we are Saturday night, another unusual time to launch one of these, but hey, I figure, there's no better time than now to help you guys, kind of get ready for this new week. Of course, some of the big trends going out there, finding some of those brand new 2021 quarters. There's some pretty notable errors out there, guys. If you don't know exactly what to look for, stay tuned in this video. You're going to get your fair share of the good old 2021 mix-ins. Of course, we only got about 30 days left in 2021 before we flip that calendar to what is going to be more newer, different coins. The quarters are certainly going to look different among a few other things. Precious time is running out to find some of these crazy errors that has just been going absolutely nuts on the secondary market. We're going to take a look at a few that again kind of buck the trend for this week. Furthermore, all the coins on this list are going to be raw. You're not going to find any graded coins. The big reason why is, well, what's the use of grading if it's going to cost you $100 to grade a coin that customarily you could go and sell for between 10 and 50 bucks or higher? You go and grade it, you spend all this money for the grading fees, and then sometimes, the coin will still be worth what it was ungraded. So that's something to keep in mind. And that's why we do this report, is to show you guys, to help showcase exactly how much these coins sell for raw. As if you found it in Pocket Change or cherry picked it from a show, turning around and selling it on eBay. All right, so one other thing, I don't normally bring this up at the beginning of the video, but a lot of these errors and varieties, you're going to need some sort of tools. All right, the biggest one, of course, is the jeweler's loop. I've had people just fight me just to no end about a jeweler's loop, a good old $7 to $10 jeweler's loop. I'm telling you what, guys, if you're not using some sort of magnification, at the very least 7 times power or higher, you're really doing yourself a disservice. There's a lot of people that feel like they could identify some of these varieties with the naked eye, and I'm telling you, it's just not that easy, even if you have the most perfect vision in the world. So I would encourage you guys to make sure you have one of these. If you need one, good news, they are incredibly cheap, and I have some available in my Amazon links down below in the description box. I do get paid a small little commission for selling some of these. It's really nothing, and not enough to really retire on, of course, but at the very least, it gives you guys access to some of the tools that a lot of other, well-established coin collectors are using today. All right, enough of all the jibber jabber. Let's go ahead and jump right in to this list. Again, for November 27th, few short days left here in this month before we turn to December. This may look familiar, but we have another lot of 1999 off-center struck Lincoln Memorial cents from the same seller that I've highlighted in the last, I would say, 2-3 weeks. Apparently, this individual has a ton of 1999 off-center struck coins. This is a lot of 4. Now, again, I'm telling you guys to keep an eye out for lots like this. There's always the opportunity to pick up one of these lots for a relatively inexpensive rate and then turn around and flip each one of the coins individually back on eBay. And the big idea is you're trying to double the amount of money after fees, which can be done. I do it myself. Again, check out these lots and make sure you know what you're looking at. For example, these off-center struck coins do look pretty good. They're in really nice shape. They look like they were found from a good old, bank bag that used to distribute back in the day. They don't do those anymore, which is a real shame. But you'll notice that 3 of the coins here have actually full dates, and that's what really matters to collectors of this type of error. So you want to take into consideration those 3 coins, and then we have one other coin that's about 60% off center that has no readable date. So we'll just assume that that's going to be the low end of the totem pole when it comes to value. You know, but please do your research. All right, make sure you know how much these coins are selling for. 1999 is one of the more common dates out there, I'm afraid to say. So this lot of 4 sold for $32, and that's with 19 total bits. So there was definitely a few people going back and forth on this one in the hopes of getting it at an affordable rate. If you broke it down, it's $8 a coin. You know, is it really worth it? Okay, I don't think you'll double up on this. As a matter of fact, it might be completely maxed out for potential. But again, some of these lots I've seen sell as cheap as 20 bucks. So, you know, keep in mind that those even exist as well. All right, here's another common date off-center struck coin. Now, keep in mind, a lot of these 1998 to 2001 date range of Lincoln Memorial cents, these show up off-center struck more often than you think. You know, they really came out of BU bank bags back in the day, straight from the Federal Reserve. But they existed in enough quantities that finding one in mint-state condition isn't actually too hard. Furthermore, when you look at a coin like this, even though it's struck off center by about maybe 15%-ish, somewhere around there, the coin is still about the same size as a standard Lincoln cent. You know, you don't see a lot of distortion here on the overall shape of the coin, and that's good news. This is, again, something you could find, and you know, by the way, from the looks of this coin, it looks like it's circulated a little bit, just based off of some of the markings and stain spots and carbon spots that you see on there. But in any event, this coin did sell for $12.59, so that's not a bad you know, deal right there. It's good to know that these have a little bit of value. All right, we actually have a nice healthy amount of paper money on the list today. Now, this is not a piece that you would normally find in circulation, but that's okay. Maybe this is something that you could find at a local coin shop or maybe a regional show that's closest to you. But this is actually a Hawaii overprint $1 bill. These were commonly distributed during the World War II era. And, you know, these were referred to as emergency notes. You know, our armed forces carried these, so that way, you know, it's still legal tender, but, you know, kind of along the same lines of a military payment certificate. They can only be used by service members. So at the time, these were being handed out and distributed among those folks that served our country. But what makes these unique is they have that brown overprint, and it says Hawaii, not only on the front of the note, but at the back as well. The back is where really all the action is. It's got a misaligned reverse print on there, but you could also see the overprint of Hawaii. So this one right here, the big error is going to be the misalignment of the second print that was administered to the back of the sheet. And because of that, you know, this is a seldom seen error type, and it was able to pick up $199, which is quite good. That's about double what a normal crisp uncirculated Hawaii overprint note would go for. Here's a 2005 P West Virginia statehood quarter. Now, this is one of those particular statehood quarters that are quite common with what they call cud die breaks. All right, you probably see it there on the reverse at the edge of the rim. We'll go a little bit closer there for you. So a piece of the die had fallen off as a result of wear and tear after producing so many different strikes, and, you know, not different strikes, but producing so many strikes of this particular coin. You know, these things are bound to chip and break and all that great stuff, and then, you know, this is what it looks like on the coin. Now, normally, under normal circumstances, cud die break errors are quite desirable on the secondary market. All right, they're one of the easiest low-hanging fruit, make money today, no later than tomorrow type of coins. This particular example, however, is quite common. All right, not only on the West Virginia, but also the South Dakota is another one of those coins with these cut die breaks. And to give you guys an idea, this one only sold for $5.39. Again, it's quite common, a very, very common error on this particular statehood quarter. Now, this is definitely something neat to look out for in your proof sets. Now, some of us don't really, imagine going through a proof set finding errors, but keep in mind, proof set coins were produced with the highest utmost quality. So when you take into consideration kind of the standardization of the production of these coins, you would think that finding a mint error would be quite difficult, if not impossible. But if you don't look, you don't know if you have one. We talked about a rim-clipped proof nickel. I think it was like a 70 or 71S or 72 rim clip, and it stayed in its original government holder with all the other 4 coins in there. That set ended up selling for like $91. So that's a standard, just basic run-of-the-mill rim clip on a proof nickel. However, take a look at this one. This one, just a very, very masterful piece of photography. Some would say, well, rotated die errors are pretty tough to photograph, without the aid of like possibly like a mirror or something like that. But if you use your 2x2 holder and you take pictures like this, where you have the front of the nickel just perfectly like centered and non-rotated on the front, and then you could take a picture of the reverse of the coin, and you could see that obviously there is a 20-degree counterclockwise rotation. While at face value it seems very minor, but on something like this isn't supposed to happen on a proof struck coin. And because of that, the single solitary nickel sold for $89. $89, not 87. And that's with 7 bits. So yeah, I kind of messed up my my numbering there for a second. $89, that's with 7 total bits. Proving once again that some of the most rarest, most scarce errors on U.S. coins, can be found on modern proof sets. This one right here is just a great example of that. Again, very minor, but I can only imagine how much this coin would sell for if maybe it had like a 45-degree or a 90-degree clockwise or counterclockwise rotation. It would just be just bonkers. It'd probably be a few $100 if I had to venture a guess. But make sure you're checking out those proof sets for coins like this. At first glance, they may look completely normal and just minor, but this is a classic case of you just never know what's happening in the market. All right, I'm feeling like I'm talking very wordy, all right? And, some of you probably think, that's okay, you're really teaching us a lot, so I'll kind of speed it along here. This is a $1 bill. It's a 1969 series. So the note has quite a bit of soiling. It's circulated quite a bit. The error on this particular note is not on the front. Well, it is on the front. Now that I see it, this one has mismatched serial numbers. So you'll notice the second number of the series, one has a 7 and the other one has an 8. All right, so mismatched serial numbers, again, they do pop up mostly on much older notes. Another thing to note is that this one has a tear, which is actually a great big hole. You can actually stick your pinky finger in there. That's how big it is. But again, if you find one of these in much older dated notes, I mean, man, this is big money right here. Even this note in this condition with the hole on the note did sell for $258.99, and that's with 2 bits. So, someone knew how rare this was. You don't normally see mismatched serial number errors on 69 series notes, but yeah, this one right here is a great example with a problem, and it still managed to sell for what I think is a fantastic amount of money. Here's a much newer note, this time a 1999 $10 Federal Reserve note. So, the saying goes that, you can even find these on much newer notes like this big head style, non-colorized note. But check out that third print with the serial numbers and district seals. It's all misaligned to the left. So much so that you can even see it here on this left side of the margin here. I'm willing to bet that this one really raised eyebrows when it was first discovered. So this is a superb find. The note has circulated. You could see some of these vertical folds right here. You know, so it looked like it's been folded down the middle a couple times. This one sold for $154.25. It looks like a best offer was accepted, and this was actually sold by a relatively prominent currency dealer. I think Bill's Bargain Stamps, who's been around for many years. There's a back in the note just showing more of the circulation. And here's another piece of currency. This time it's a 1988A $1 bill. I mean, this one's pretty neat. For a main reason is that this was produced on what they called a web printing, or you know, and what it was is you know, if you look at today's production of banknotes, the notes are printed on what they call subject sheets. You could fit 32 up on a sheet. However, with web press notes, this was actually an experimental type of printing process where, if you think about how newspapers are made, the paper comes off of a roll. And that's what they experimented with the web press. And you could tell it's a web note because it's got the printing plate number to the right of "In God We Trust," where normally it would be here on the bottom right-hand corner for any other regular note. So the web press was an experimental type of printing concept that went on for a few years, about 10 years. So you see it on 88As, you see them on, I believe, what, 91s and 95s on $1 bills. This one right here is in beautiful shape, and it's sold for $99. But another part to this is the fact that the note is slightly miscut. You just notice the big wider margin at the bottom. So here's one of the first 2021s to look for. Now, it's a Tuskegee Airmen. Okay, we know all about these because I've talked about them to a nauseating amount of you know, times. And usually we take a look at the strike-throughs, right? The burning buildings and all that stuff. However, this one is on here for a completely different reason. If you haven't seen it, it's got a great big die chip right above the this pair of goggles right here. And that thing is huge. That's actually a right good sized die chip. Again, a piece of the die had fallen off. And when that happens, there's going to be a missing piece of the die on the strike. It's going to show up as a raised feature on this particular coin. And this one right here is sold for $11.41. And that's with 5 bits. Again, a coin that, you know, will sell for about 40 to 44 times face value. I mean, that's not nothing, and it's certainly worth keeping. This particular coin also did circulate a little bit. It's not like a gem BU type coin. It still has luster, but you could tell that there's some breaks in there. And here's the other one here, okay? So we're talking about die chips. We all know about the crown die chip on the Washington crossing the Delaware quarters, which, by the way, is a half-year type. All right, it's not, you know, this is a very, very short series of one coin because we have the American Women series starting in 2022. So these will still be out there, but keep in mind, the coins will circulate and they'll just become a casualty to regular general circulation. But you can see the pretty sizable die chip. It's not as late stage as the normal large crown hamburger die chip that you're used to seeing, but this one's still pretty prominent enough that collectors that want to collect these by progression will certainly want this piece. And this one sold for $27.99, and that's with 23 bits. Now this one's pretty cool. I haven't seen one of these in a little while, but we have a 1968D Kennedy half dollar. You guys know that these are 40% silver clad. So which kind of helps support what we're seeing here. Now it looks like the coin is split right down the middle, but would you guys believe that this is a form of lamination, all right, called a clamshell. So a clamshell, the coin will split right along its edge. to where it makes it look like a clam, right? It doesn't have the little pearl in there like you would normally associate with a clam that you find out in the ocean, but that's where this particular lamination error gets its namesake. It's just the way it looks. Now, again, yeah, do not hold a coin with tweezers without any sort of protective kind of padding, because that's an easy way of damaging the coin. So that's a big no-no on this one. This particular error sold for $61.75, and that's with 21 bits. A lot of people were interested in owning this coin. And here you go. Here's another 2000 P Sacagawea Dollar. These golden dollars first came out in 2000, and this is where you're going to find the biggest error, among a few other cool finds for this date. And Philadelphia, man, has been getting lots of love in terms of its mintage and just straight up bad quality control, which makes for some stunning errors. For example, this one is the Speared Eagle or Wounded Eagle. It's the FS901. You can see the prominent die gouge right here, and there's even a little one right here as well. This is the big one, guys. This is the one that, you know, continues to get found, and you would think as many of them that have sold in the last 6 months that these things would be drying up or they'd be dropping in price. That's not the case. This example sold for $98.50. So still worth a good chunk of money. Find them if you could get across and grab some. Here's another 2021. Now, this time we are going to take a look at a strike-through. Okay, so that strike-through is a glob of hardened grease and debris that was on the die before this coin was struck. Now, this is a minor type of burnt building effect on here, and people love these. All right, these things continue to go up in price. Now, the minor one here, this one used to sell for like 50, 60 bucks back in September. But this one, based off of overall lack of, you know, supply out there, the demand is just through the roof for these, but supply has been getting very dry. Upon closer examination, that's what this one looks like. And again, keep in mind, this particular smaller strike-through sold for about 50, 60 bucks a few months ago. This one sold for $207, and that's with 16 bids. Now, this is much more like it. 1982, large date, Lincoln Memorial cent, and this is actually a copper-coated zinc example. And this is just a great big piece of cut right there. You know, this is a big piece of the die that had fallen off, and then when it struck this Lincoln cent, that's what it looked like. Unfortunately, there was no reverse image. Normally, with a cut, you want a full obverse and reverse image along with a close-up if you can. I mean, they nailed the close-up pretty well on this, but it was missing some other things as well. The seller was asking $55 for this, and a best offer was accepted. I couldn't get that information from Terapeak or anywhere else. Maybe one of you can check out one of your other sites to find out how much it really did sell for. I would say probably 40 bucks. Cuds, again, are king in the secondary market. And as people are finding them, you know, there's just many more buyers for them. And because of that, the prices will continue to hold steady Eddie on these for many years to come. How about we go ahead and update one of the more common varieties to look for out there. Now, in 98, 99, and 2000, you had the opportunity of finding the wide AM reverse Lincoln Memorial cents. Now, it's only a 3-year date run. 98 and 2000 are the two common dates to find this occurrence, and they're all Philadelphia struck coins. The 99 is much more scarce, and they're worth quite a bit more money, but how about one that looks like this, as if it was pulled from change and was never discovered until now? This one right here, again, you can see that pretty sizable gap separating the A and M in America. And this one sold for $6.50, and that's with 8 bids. So that's not too bad. I've seen them go for about 5 to 10 bucks in kind of like circulated grades like this. Excuse me. We have another Lincoln cent. Believe it or not, this is a Lincoln cent, and it's struck way off center by about 98%. At least that's what the seller used for the listing. But yeah, would you believe that there is just enough of the date to know that this is a 1995 and probably a Philadelphia minted coin at that. But this is just a phenomenal, very wicked example. I mean, if you want to own a coin that will make a great kind of like statement piece, or gives your crowd something to talk about, this one is it right here. Now it's a uniface, and what that means is there's no design makeup on the back of the coin where that off-center strike is. This one right here sold for $22.50, and that's with 4 bids. Alright, so there is a seller that sold quite a few really nice looking errors this week. It goes by the name Xano, and that's spelled X-A-N-N-O. N as in Nancy. So Xano had sold a few pretty neat looking errors this week. We have a 1995 P Washington quarter with not one, but count them 2 curved clips on there. The coin is in beautiful shape. I mean, there's really not else that you could ask for to make this one a well-represented coin. And I love the fact that the clips are directly across from each other. I mean, that kind of gives it a whole new eye appeal kind of factor to it. This one right here sold for $28.51, and that's with 9 bids. Here's another 1995 P from Xano. This time it's a Roosevelt Dime, and this one is broad struck. It's a nice centered example at that. Now, a broad strike happens when the collar malfunctions, and the collar usually keeps the coin in the striking chamber. If the coin has reeds, like those little lines on the edge, the collar is in itself a die that actually has the reeds on there that will press those features onto the edge of the coin as it's being struck. But when the collar isn't engaged properly, then that metal flow has to go somewhere when this coin is struck. So just like a pancake or, Play-Doh, when you smash it down, all that material goes outwards. This one right here, beautiful coin, by the way, sold for $15.50, and that's with 4 bids. Our subject coin of the week, and we actually have 2 of these, but 2 different denominations. This is a 1995 D, all right, Denver minted Washington quarter. Yeah, what's up with the color of that front side? Well, this is what a circulated quarter would look like with the missing obverse clad layer. So it's missing the nickel clad layer on the front of the coin. And this is all copper, all right? This is what the copper inner core looks like. If it didn't have that top layer of nickel. So this is a really cool find. I know people get tripped up on these all the time. You're like, hey, I have this one that looks, similar to what you had on your video. And, they show it to you. You're like, well, it's showing on both sides of the coin. And this one is much, much darker and blacker. And it looks like it was dug out from the ground. So this coin right here is probably more along the lines of an AU50 type grade. And, after a little circulation and oxidation, this is what the front of the coin would look like. And plus, notice the details. It's very well struck. Whereas one, if it was played around with, where the clad layer was forced off, off the coin, then you would notice that these design details would not be this strong at all. This one right here is sold for $69, and that's with 17 bids. Again, another Xano piece. Now, I don't think this one's Xano. Xano has, up to this point, furnished really nice photography of the coins because you could see all the edges on them. Here's a 55S Lincoln Wheat Cent. Now, the coin in itself is not bad, but, those carbon spots can be a little bit distracting. But the real reason why that this one's on the list and it's sold for a decent amount of money is going to be that die chip between the B and E. Believe it or not, this has its own collectible namesake called a BIE cent, where that little die chip connecting the B and E sometimes looks like a big fat cigar or a letter I, and that's why it gets the BIE name. This one right here, again, in its current condition, surprisingly sold for $22.50, and that's with 2 bids. Another thing to keep in mind, 55 D and S BIE cents are common. You could go out there and find them almost assuredly. Here's another 1995 Washington quarter. This is a Xano piece. This one right here is not only a little bit broad struck. You could see that is apparent here. It looks a little bit off center, but you do have a full rim. However, what's this thing? Okay, it's called an indent, which means there are probably two planchets that were bonded at one point on the strike. And yeah, they just overlapped a little bit. So you'll have an omission of material right here where that overlapped other coin was. This one right here sold for $72.77, and that's with 15 bids. Again, another beautiful looking error coin. Now we saw the Washington quarter. How about a Roosevelt Dime? We have another 1995D Roosevelt Dime. It seems like Xano looked through a lot of 95 coins back in the day. But yeah, we have another one here that is pretty well struck, but it's also missing that reverse nickel-clad layer. All right, so all you have is exposed copper right there, so it's oxidized a little bit. It's probably more red-brown than anything else. This particular coin sold for $68.77, and that's with 16 bids. Here's another one, 1995P. This time a Jefferson nickel. This one is off-center by about 60%. Now the coin is in phenomenal shape. You got lots of luster. It's a very nice high-end piece. Again, you have a full date and a mint mark. That's what matters to collectors of this type, because they do go out and they find dates and complete a date run of these coins with off-center strikes. This one right here sold for $54, and that's with 21 bids. Here's another 95P Jefferson nickel. This time, this one is a really nice hammered centered broad strike. It's probably about the size of a $quarter at this point, but again, beautiful, well-centered example. Is a great collector piece of this type of error, and this one sold for $42.60, and that's with 6 bids. And then the final coin of this particular PCMR is going to be a nice early Indian head cent. This is an 1893 Indian head cent. As you can see, you know, of course, there were mint errors going on back in the day as well. This one is off-center by about 10, maybe 12%. Beautiful coin with a full date. You know, hard to tell if it's problem-free. I mean, it has circulated quite a bit before it was eventually pulled out of circulation. I can only imagine that the person that found this thought it was a really stunning-looking error. I love these earlier obsolete error coins. If you could pick them up for a pretty good price, then you will have something really nice for your collection or to flip. A lot of these coins, again, you don't need to grade. All right, some would say, well, the Indian head cent should have been in a PCGS holder. Well, this one right here sold for $171.50 with 20 bids. With the grade being as it is, you don't have visible Liberty. It's pretty well circulated. Again, grading something like this wouldn't make sense at all. You know, if it comes back as a VG8, it'll still sell for under $200. So why spend that extra money to grade these things when it's just not necessary? But that's going to go ahead and do it, guys. Saturday night, quick and easy. We had 25 coins this week, or this episode. Seeing as how I dropped one of these a few days ago. You know, why load you guys with 35, 40 of them? But anyways, that's going to go ahead and do it. I'm your host, Sean, with BlueRidgeSilhound. Thank you guys for watching. Best of luck in all of your hunts this upcoming week as we head into December. But don't forget to like, share, and subscribe as well. If you enjoyed today's content, hit the dislike button. If you don't, Coinaholics, we are discovering together. Would love to hear about some of your finds. Go ahead, shoot us an email to info@livecoinqa.com. That's our live coin Q&A show that we do every Monday night. We are off this Monday, but we will be back the next Monday with more coin talk for you. Hope to hear from you soon. Have a good night, and I will see you on the next coin video.